Well, I don't know about you, but looking outside, I think it's the perfect day. The perfect day to hike to Tunnel Falls. Why don't we go and see?
Okay, this is the valley through which the river flows, or I should say the creek flows. It's known as Mission Creek, and as you get higher in elevation, the cliffs became even larger. Down here they're covered in chaparral, and they don't look like cliffs because they're not. But anyways, up in the clouds is where the falls are.
Walking up the approach road to the trailhead, there's ample evidence that the creek should be flowing strongly. Look off here to the left, we got a little itty bitty waterfall coming down the side of the embankment along the road.
The Tunnel Trail trailhead begins as a tunnel, aptly named, you could say. Anyway, so this little tunnel through the bushes or chaparral is the entrance to the trail to the waterfalls. And we're going to walk up there until we find them. So now we're getting up in elevation, and you're starting to see the actual canyon through which Mission Creek runs. Now granted, the raindrops are going to get at my lens, and maybe you won't see what I'm seeing, but the clouds are starting to lift. With a little luck, the rain might actually stop, and there's no question that the falls, which are right up in that notch, will be falling. Well, the visibility has improved a little bit, and we can actually see the falls in the distance. That's the objective. So the falls from here look rather small. I don't know how many vertical feet we're talking, but it's well over 100. They're quite large. You'll see them a whole lot better when we get closer. So now that we're closer, you get a better view of the falls. You can see that they actually go down an incredibly far distance. When the falls get really large, they actually split into two falls. The main falls, the further one, and then a tributary falls, the closer one. The closer one's actually really clear, pretty amazing, so it must be coming from a different source, or at least it's not eroding as much material. The main falls is quite murky, not really chocolate milk, but it could be a frappuccino. So looking over the falls, you can see the bottom, and that becomes Mission Creek, which roars on down the mountain, and it goes through an area called Seven Falls. It's really popular for hiking. There's a series of smaller falls, and they're somewhat passable. Kind of depends on what the weather's like and how adventurous you are. But regardless, this creek creates some amazing opportunities downstream. So now that I've made it to the falls, it's pretty impressive. Check out the amount of water going over there. I have no idea how much it is, but it's significant. Anyways, this was really cool. This is a great hike. So one of the other great things about hiking in the rain, you get the place to yourself. You know, most people don't really like to come out in the rain, and I don't blame them, but in a way, they're really missing out because you don't see stuff like this when it's sunny. These falls don't last long. They might last for a day, but they kind of just fade away. So right now, they're going pretty much full force. They can get bigger, and they certainly were bigger last night, but last night I was sleeping and it was dark, so we didn't really see the maximum flow. But I'll tell you, this is still pretty big flow, at least for Mission Creek. So if you go downstream here, that's where the falls are. They're further down. If you got swept over the falls, well, that'd be your last hike. The falls are large. The bottom's rather rocky, so you kind of got to feel your way across. You don't want to be surprised and find a deep hole or, a boulder right in front of you. Because getting swept over the falls, well, that would be a death sentence.
Unbelievable. Would you look at that? How curious. Do I see right? It's flowing uphill. Oh my God, it's a gravity anomaly. You see the strangest things when you're out hiking these mountains.
So the trail becomes a creek in many places. In other places it becomes incredibly muddy. And I think we're about to approach one of those muddy sections right now. So you could wear your really fancy boots, Gore-Tex, that kind. Or I opted for the Walmart tennis shoes. And honestly, the tennis shoes are great because if they get muddy, I don't really care. They cost $12. So here's some of my favorite mud. Squishy, squishy. Most of the trail is pretty good, but there are a few sections like this. This is probably the worst of those sections, or the best if you like mud. Here we go. There's some good mud. Squishy, squishy. Squishy, squishy. So the descent from the falls follows the same trail that we took up, which is Tunnel Trail. And Tunnel Trail has a lot of variation. It goes across these areas like this, which are really rugged. It's the cold water sandstone again, and they're the prettiest sections. And so you're just walking on sandstone, so there's good traction, lots of little steps. It's pretty cool. And the views are getting better now that the clouds are starting to lift. So that big boy in the distance, that's Arlington Peak. It's probably one of the best hikes in the area. You hike up that ridge that you see, the area with the least vegetation, that's basically the spine or Dragon's Back. And hiking up to the top of Dragon's Back, it's a unique hike because there's not much of a trail. It's more of a scramble, and it's pretty darn impressive.